Thank you, Jacques. If the slides could go up, please. Well, first of all, I'm very, very pleased to be part of this session. I have to tell you before I give my own presentation that I'm a fantastic admirer of the three devices that have been shown already in this session. They're all very, very new, cutting-edge technologies, and I'm quite certain that they're going to find a very important role, each one of them, in endograft treatment of aneurysms. I'm going to discuss, if my slides could go up, but you can see them, a device called the Anaconda device. And I do have a disclosure because the surgeon who trained me some years ago started a company in the United Kingdom called Vascutech, which made vascular grafts. And a few years ago, they started to make endovascular grafts. Would it be possible that my slides can come up? Here we go. Good. It's called the Anaconda device, and it's called the Anaconda device because the shape of the top of the endograft is shaped like the mouth of a snake. And this means that when it is located at the renal arteries, the valley can be positioned to let the blood flow into the renal artery, and opposite that, the peaks are going to be higher to help get seal. I think the important things to try to show you about this device are that it has two hoops, and these hoops are very important, very different from most stents. These two hoops provide the seal for the abdominal aortic aneurysm. And this is fantastic because you can land that exactly where you want to underneath the renal arteries. The second thing about the device is that it is redeployable, and that means you can readjust its position in relation to the renal arteries, and if you're not happy, you can readjust it again and again until you've got the perfect position. It's made of thin woven Dacron, and it has this magnetic docking system that I'll show you shortly. It's modular, and so you fit generally 3 pieces, sometimes 4, sometimes 5, into the aneurysm. It comes with a hydrophilic coating, and if I can get the video to work. Unfortunately, yes, here we go. Unfortunately, the video doesn't work on this system. Well, it comes with a hydrophilic coating, and can you help? Just to get that one to work. It was working well next door. What you have to do is just squeeze, there we go, you squeeze your right hand, and once you've deployed it, you can squeeze it, get it more low profile, and adjust its position under the fluoroscopy, and redeploy it. And most devices, I'm afraid you cannot do this with. Once you land it, and that's where it lands. And this means, if you can help with this video, here we go, that this patient had no neck almost at all, 3 or 4 millimeters only, and yet we're able to put this device in absolutely underneath the renal arteries with advantage for this patient. Otherwise, I think the patient would not have been able to have been easily treated. The next thing to show you is, and again, if you could please come and help with this video, because this is probably the most important thing to show them, is that there is a magnet system, and 2 little magnets meet in order to gain contralateral access for the contralateral limb. And so this wire comes in with a magnet on it, it's attracted to another magnet on the system, and you can gain contralateral access within approximately 1 minute. Here's the magnet wire from the left, the contralateral side. You can see in the next slide that it's just brought in through the iliac artery, and the 2 little dots will then match each other. They snap together, and then you simply advance them both up through the system to gain contralateral access with the contralateral wire, and then you feed your left limb up. This is a slide just to show you that the graft conforms to the anatomy of most aneurysms. Here we have, in fact, a 90-degree angle in this patient, and I'll show you why. You can see the 2 hoops at right angles to plain abdominal film here, as this graft is conforming very easily. And I have to say, I never worried about I was going to have a problem in landing this device in this case. The article to the left is a ureteric stent. So our initial series of just over 100 patients with this new device, because of our association with Vascotec locally in Scotland, we put these in. You can see the average age was 77. Most of the aneurysms were 4.8 to 10.7, average of 6.3 centimeters in size. The comorbidities were very typical of 100 patients with aneurysms, age 77. And you can see that most of the complications were non-clinical but myocardial, in that they had non-ST myocardial infarction on troponin, which we routinely check. The complication of note, I think, was that 5 out of the 200 limbs occluded, 2.5% limb occlusion rate. And I think in retrospect this was because of the disease that we were fighting against. And in retrospect, I think we should have ballooned the limbs more rigorously. One patient I had to convert. This was not a fault of the device, but my own fault in losing wire access and in badly deploying the device. It came out relatively easily, and this patient managed to survive the open surgery very well. And another complication, again, really, that the patient didn't tolerate what we had to do. This was a type 1 endoleak. You can see at the very top end here, going over to the patient's left. And I treated this with a coda balloon to try and just push the device against the wall in a better situation. And this patient, unfortunately, didn't tolerate the ballooning, and the aorta gave way right underneath the renal arteries. You can see the extravasation of contrast here as he's bleeding on the table. His pressure dropped to about 53, and so because the coda balloon was up in the place at the time, we're very quickly able to control this. And then we put in the cuff to solve the problem. So we ended up with these consecutive first 106 patients with a 0% 30-day operative mortality. And we do have endoleak with this device, unlike the Nelix, but you can see that it was favorable to most other series. I was very proud to be able to go back to Arizona Heart, where I was trained, and help them put the first device into the United States of America, and about 20,000 of these devices have now been placed across the world. The advantages, in my view, and it's my favorite device, are that you can adjust its position in relation to the renal arteries. The magnet wire makes it really, really easy to use. And these 2 proximal hoops give you the seal that you can land it almost anywhere you want. Many thanks indeed.
Thank you very much for this excellent presentation. We feel that you have experience in this system. It's a very interesting system. By the way, it has been approved in France by the French authorities, and you know it's a big process to enter in, and it's reimbursed, so it's a reliable graft for me. But I have a question regarding the redeployment process and system. When do you particularly use it? When is it useful? In which circumstance exactly is it useful to use the redeployment system that you are the only one to get?
Yeah, it's a great question. In fact, I tend to redeploy and adjust the position most of the time, Jacques, just to get it perfect, because you don't want to generally land a device too close to the renal arteries in case it migrates up, or you don't want to deploy a device too low in a neck in case it migrates down. And getting its position and angulation in some of the necks is very important. So I actually tend to do it 90% of the time.
The panel have a question on this very, very useful system. If not, we are going to move to the case report session animated by Michel Henry, because I have to leave. My mother is not in a good situation.